Today I'm going to be showing you how you can build this responsive navigation bar. As a front-end developer, you're going to find yourself building a navigation bar. All right, let's get into it. Right now in our browser, this is all that we have, just this background image. Okay, so I'm just going to give a short command here, RAFC, that's going to create this boiler template. For the navigation bar, I'm just going to wrap it inside the header, and we know that we need the logo on the right side, and then we need the links also. So I believe the most important thing is for you to have your structure in place. So just bear with me here. I'm gonna create the navigation bar here. So this is the container, and then inside here we're gonna have our logo. Well, because here we're not using a picture, so I'm just gonna use maybe an H1, which I'm gonna say logo. And then we're gonna have a list of our tags, but of course it'll be boring if we come in here and we write services, and then we also write maybe projects. Yeah, sure, that's fine, you could do that, but that's really repetitive. So what we could actually do is to create maybe like an array to hold all that data, and I'm just going to call it links, and we can have, for example, services, and we can have projects in here, and then we can have about. Really, this is not important. This is just anything that you could put any link. It doesn't really matter. This is for learning purposes. Okay, so now we have that. So instead of writing each and every one of the link manually, which is really redundant, what we could do is to simply use the map, so that we'll be able to iterate. So here we're going to return a link, and here we have the link. Yep. So basically what you're doing here, you're mapping over each and every link here. You're iterating from 1 to 3 up until to the last one. So it's important because React expects this key, and it has to be unique. But if for some reason you think that maybe you're going to have some duplicates here, which is unlikely, it's a good idea. You could also put like I, which is for index, and then you use key as I, which is starting from 0, 1. It works for the most part, but not all the times really. You could use like a library for that, but that's not the focus for today. So yeah, we could just use these indexes from 0 up to the last one. Okay, we have that in place. These are the links, and then what would be the last one that we need? We're gonna need maybe a button. Okay, maybe before I do that, at least let's see how all of this looks so far. Okay, so we're gonna need to import Navbar here. Oops, I kept doing the same thing. Okay, so now we have the navigation bar here. Yeah, I don't know if you can see this is how it is. So what we want is, we want this logo to be where it is, and then we need these links to be on the right side. If you're just wondering why are they all like in uppercase, it's because in my reset here I already put text transform to uppercase. All right, so let's start with the header. Maybe we could give it a class name, header container. This is one thing I don't like about about CSS, the class names. But still, that's fine. Later on, you could switch to using Tailwind. It'll be much better. But for now, let's focus on what we need to have done. So in here, what are we going to do with the header container? Of course, we're going to give it a width of 100%. And then we're going to display that as flex, and maybe give it a minimum height of like maybe 4 rems, so it'll be like 48 pixels. Yeah, line items. Maybe we just align them as center. Okay, that doesn't really do anything to the navigation bar. So let's deal with that. Our nav bar, what are we going to call it? Nav container. Yep. Yeah, I'm going to come in here. What would that be? Probably this is the one that's actually going to need a display of flags. So let's see. And we're going to need things to stretch out 100%. And we're going to need to just, okay, maybe I need to show you before I go how things look now. So as you can see, because we just applied that display flex here. So if I hide that, you're going to see everything's going to go into the column. But now if I do that, they're now side by side. So now we need them to stretch. I'm going to give justified content space between, and this is going to go all the way here. Here's exactly what we need. And then maybe we could also address giving maybe like that background here. Let's give that a background, or maybe backdrop filter. We're gonna apply blur, maybe 5 pixels. I don't know. We'll increase if it's not enough. Yep. Okay, perfect. And now we just need to give paddings. Padding. Top I'm gonna give 0, and then this is maybe gonna be 1.5 gram, which is like 24 pixels. This reflects. All right. Then here, because we need this logo to move down. This is inside the nav container, so now align items center. Yeah, and that should move it down here. So that means we didn't really need this here. It's not really important because all of these things are inside the nav container here. Yep. Okay. Now let's address these ones here. We're just going to need to give them class name, maybe what do we call this, list container. I think that will do. All right, so our list container. Now you can already see that we are having some repeated code. Display flex, align item center. So these are now like this. So let's give them some space. We can use the gap, which is like maybe 2.5 grams. Hopefully that's enough. Yep. Color. I use our variables here. I'm just going to use the text. Yep. And also for the logo. The logo here is going to get. Right now we need to give it maybe a font size. 2 rounds, that would be small. That's fine. Color is gonna get text. Font weight, not really important, but okay, perfect. So this is how it is now. Now all we need to handle is when we get to maybe somewhere around 7 something, things will collapse. So the idea here now is that when we get to a certain point, like 7 something, we need an icon that replaces this, right, in place of all the links. How do we do that now? So we could actually here we could have a button. We just have to have a button here. I'm gonna give it a class name, maybe a toggle icon. And I have used these icons that I got from Google. Actually, you can use that. So I have the close icon and I have the menu icon. So let's import those. Import close icon from assets icons. What is that? Close icon .svg. I'm just gonna duplicate that. This will be maybe menu icon. So here I'll use the menu icon. Now, if you remember, we need to sort of like dynamically switch these icons. So we're going to need some sort of a state that tells us it's now time to switch. So this is where you could use React. So let's create a state maybe called is open. Set is open equals useState and false. Right, so this is going to be some sort of a Boolean value state that can hold the value based on whether the menu is open or not. Of course, we're gonna need to make sure that we hide the button on the desktop. So we're gonna use media queries later on. But for now, why did we introduce that? Is because we need to maybe have an image here, and we're gonna determine the source. We're gonna be switching this source, which is the close icon or the menu icon. So we're gonna say is open. If the menu is open, that means we need to close it. So we show the close icon. Otherwise, we're going to show the menu icon, right? So this is why you have, yeah, because that's a button. So from toggle btn. So we know for a fact that let's remove that background color to none. Background color is background, and the border also to none. That should do it. Okay, perfect. And I'm going to set the display to none on desktop so that we don't see it. So at what point do we need to see it and how, right? So at least we know for now we are able to, we know it's there, but we just hide it when we're on the desktop. So let's see. We're going to use a media query and maybe around Let's just say 769 here. Then we can hide these links and we can show the button. Okay, sounds like a good plan. So let's use the media query at media. So maybe we could use, say, width less than or equal to 769 pixels. That's like the standard in Intel and CSS, I think. All right, so what do we need to do here? Right, this is where all the magic starts to happen. So the first thing that we need to do is to hide the links. Okay, so we know we have this list container here, and I'm actually going to switch here so we can start using template literals. You're going to see why we need that, or you're going to need to see why we need that in a minute, because we need to conditionally apply certain classes here. Okay, so what I could do is this. I could say is open. Then I could say if it's open, show. Otherwise, hide. Okay, so I know I have this class list container. Okay, so list container show. Right, so this would display maybe flags, although it's already flags really, so there is no need for me to. And then we know we also have the other class hide. And I'm going to say this one now. This is the one that says display none. All right. And once that's in place, now we don't have the links when we get to this point here. Okay, that's exactly what we need. But the only last thing is that we need to show the icon right here. So how do we do that? I'm just going to add a class called show also here. Oh, the reason why I said list container hide list container.show is probably because we're going to have some extra items in here, extra classes. So I wouldn't want to just have a common. That's why I have separate classes. All right, so here I'm going to say display flags. Okay, so the moment we get here, yeah, but now when I click here, nothing happens. Why? See, nothing is happening. So we need, the first thing is we need to toggle this icon here to changing. How do we do that? We're already handling that, but we don't have an event. So we could add on click equals handle maybe toggle menu. So we can create that constant handle toggle menu equals, and we would say set is open. You could do this. It's not really recommended, but actually it also works. Just we add this negate, which means it's going to be switching true false whenever you click. The state is going to be changing. All right, so let's try and see if that's working. All right, sorry, I've got. All right, so that's working, except that we have this problem where the links are showing here instead of down here. So how do we move these links to down here? Oh, the easiest way I can think of here is to use absolute positioning, right? So we can set the navbar to relative, and then our links will be absolutely positioned to that. So let's try and do that. Okay, so in order to do that, we're going to need to say nav. Probably let's just do that over here. Position relative. So whenever we're showing this, we're going to say position absolute, and top 100%. This just makes sure it's below, right? And let's give it a width of probably 100%. And what else do we need? Maybe we could say flex direction column. If we want to, yep, right here. Okay, let's give you a background color. That's I'm gonna make you. We can have a background. Background color. I'm gonna use this dark 900 that I have. Okay, perfect. We could apply a padding. Maybe it's the top that we're mostly concerned about. So, and here maybe one rem. So one top and bottom here, and then I mean it's at the top, so we could give some space a little bit. Maybe another one rem. Yep, and then we could, if we want, we can have a border radius of like 0.75. All right, guess I could increase also here on the header container. It's a bit, that will be dot 800. Yep. And now you have a responsive navigation bar. That's all there is.